Let's take some time to talk about how we get the biggest return possible from the investment you and I make in starter as we're going through the field with our planters this coming spring. And as we all know, that investment has gotten a lot more significant over the last year. And you think about the cost of starter. You take 1034O as an example, and it's more than doubled. In our case, about $5.60 per gallon. So that's a pretty significant investment when you start to run that math and think about what's that going to mean to our income statements at the end of the year. So if we're looking at that $5.60 per gallon, let's say you've been running about a 6 gallon per acre rate in the past. You go through and take a look at what's that going to mean now with our new prices. If we're running 6 gallon, that's going to be in that $33.60 per acre. So now that's moved into a category that's really a very significant investment that you and I need to really think about. And thinking about, are we going to get the return that we've expected in the past, and is it going to pay back for us? So you start to run the math and think about, in today's environment with corn, futures price right now is over $5.50. Is today an environment that we really want to be looking at in terms of risking yield? So obviously when it comes to this kind of price for starter, you could just remove it from your program. But like I'm saying, when you think about the price of corn right now, as I look ahead to next season and think about our operation, we're not wanting to take risks that are going to hurt our yield. We want to try to maintain the top end as much as possible when we're getting paid like this for corn. So what other options could you have? Maybe you could go through and say, I'm just going to cut back on my rate. And you could do that and start to bring this cost per acre down, but again, you're going to be risking yield. With our system in 360-, we're thinking about it more about how do we cut back in places where we don't get the return, but keep the rate where we do see the return. So let's try to be smart about how we apply the starter, where we place it. And we know the benefits of starter really come in those kind of cold soils, the early planting conditions where we see the soil not yet warming up. We're warm enough to plant, but we're not seeing the full mineralization effect yet. Or in late planting dates, as we get out into May and we get later dates, we know that phosphorus in starter is being used to try to push that crop along, get us off to a great early start. So that's why we're doing it. We want to keep that gain, but we want to try to be smart about where we apply. So when we think about how the root system develops after we put that seed in the ground, we come through here, surface of the soil, we're putting our seeds here underground, and as they start to germinate and take off, the seedling root, it starts to develop. So mesocotyle spike starts to come to the surface, and now we start to get our radical and our seminal roots. And when you think about the phosphorus that we're trying to get into this plant early, that's what I like to call an interception nutrient. That's a nutrient that we need a root system to run into to be able to pick up and get into the plant. It's not like nitrogen where it's going to be mobile and move with water. So in the case of nitrogen, you could come along and band that here at the surface, and then as water comes through the soil profile, maybe just below the surface, you're going to see that work its way down, and eventually we're going to get it into our root system. But when it comes to our immobile nutrients that don't move with water, that's where you and I have the opportunity to start to take more control about where do we apply that nutrient so that we get the best return. And what we're looking for is to try to get this seedling root system to intercept that starter early on. So when we think about applying starter, we are using 360- to come in and apply where the root zone is, but not apply in between. So we're just going to assume for a moment that your average spacing is 6 inches between seeds. That makes the math pretty easy. So as you think about what can we do when applying starter with dash, when we delete this 3 inches in between seeds, that cuts our investment in half. But the return stays in place, and the reason for that is exactly what we're talking about here with root interception. Being in the spot where that root system is going to get that nutrient early on. So we apply, say, a 3-inch dash here, skip these 3 inches, this goes in our pocket as savings, and then come back and apply 3 inches again. So we also know then as the rest of this root system develops, this same zone where we've applied nutrients is going to pay back again as our crown roots start to develop about 3/4 inch above the seed. Crown roots to start to come through, and you'll see that secondary effect where we'll see a second burst at times where that starter's been hit again by that root system, and as those feeder roots are branching out and picking up that pea, we're starting to see that again in the plant. So being smart about where we apply, applying where the root zone is going to intercept, and don't apply in between where we don't see as much ROI. So let's think about how do we do this. I mentioned with 360 dash, it gives you more control. We're using 360 dash on high-speed planters, and the whole system starts here in the speed tube or the ExactEmerge system with the seed sensor itself. And we're picking up the fact that that seed is coming. And then from there, it's all based on timing and your planter speed. And we start counting the milliseconds that we know it takes from the seed to go from the seed sensor itself to its home position where it lands in the seed trench. And then our 360 dash valve takes over. And based on that timing, it opens up the valve, and it's a plunger, it's a needle valve that we can pull back different amounts to change the rate, and then quickly open and close to be able to create nice consistent dashes with a clean start and a clean stop. So as the dash valve now knows the seed is coming, it works its way down, comes to its home position. As we're then counting the time, we continue to count based on the attachment you're using. And you can write a number of different attachments, different firmers, as well as 360 wave that we've designed as our starter attachment. So as we run dash, we're watching, we're counting the milliseconds, we're waiting until that seed arrives to where then the outlet of whatever attachment you're running arrives right at the beginning of that 3-inch dash that you want to create over the top of the seed. We pull the valve open. The amount we pull it open is then adjusted by our flow meter. So we're measuring the flow that's passing through the valve anytime it's open, and we're looking at what rate you've told us you want to apply and making sure we've opened the valve to the right place to get that rate. We continue to move the planter ahead. The valve stays open as we create that dash on the ground. We reach the end, shut the valve quickly, flow stops on the end of your applicator, and we move on waiting for that next seed. So we treat every seed individually. We don't really need to know, for example, what your target population is. It could change, you could variable rate, you can do clutching. All the things that you do with seed, you get that same benefit with dash automatically. So if your row clutches off and you're not planting seed, we don't apply any starter. We're looking purely for the seed coming down past that seed sensor that starts the whole process for this valve to come to life and apply that dash right over the seed. So the valve itself, we talked about how it works a little bit. It's a needle valve, as I said. We then have it mounted up in here in your row unit on a bracket, and it's wirelessly connected back to the cab to your iPad. And that gives you the place where you can go ahead and set rate and see how your system's performing. You don't need any harness across the whole planter. We pick up power right off the row unit itself to run the system, and then, as I said, we communicate wirelessly back to the cab. We also add a pump to your planter that we can then control, again, with our central command system with the iPad through what we call our hub. We run the pump, and we can then set a target pressure in the iPad, and we want to maintain that consistent pressure across the whole planter all the time. All the rate setting is done in the valve itself by how far we open it up as we're passing over the seed. So let's take a look at the iPad itself and show you what that user interface looks like. So now as we start to look at the iPad, we've turned on our demo stand, and we've got just a small 2-row planter running. We're actually running seed by the seed sensor. We've got our firmers on each side in this case, and we're applying as we see each seed come past. And you start to see the settings here on the iPad that you would see in the cab, and it starts here at the top right, and that's your target rate, 6 gallon per acre. Now that 6 gallon per acre is what I've been calling concentration, or you could think of it as the local rate that the seed actually sees. You should think about it almost like a dosage. Here's what kind of dose I want to give each seed. And then next to that, you can start to see what we call our tank usage gallon per acre, and that's how much your tank is actually going down. And that's going to vary depending on your average seed spacing and what your setting is for the length of the dash that you're applying. We've been using 6 inches as our average spacing, and with a 3-inch dash, then we're going to see that at 3 gallon per acre. So 6.0 here in the top right, that's the dose, that's the concentration that you're going to feed each seed. And then you start to see we're doing the math for you to say, now based on how your planter's running, here's the actual gallons that your tank is going down. So it's important to keep those two numbers separate and a little bit distinct. It's a little different than you're used to thinking about where you just set a rate and that's always how much your tank goes down because of how dash works. So the app fairly simple as far as being able to show you what's actually being applied, give you the ability to change rate, change settings as you go through the field, and really simple to use in the cab. You're not always needing to keep the app up at all times. The valve remembers all the settings. It'll alert you if anything goes wrong. You could have other apps up as you're working your way through the field and just come back to dash if you want to change something or check on it. So let's take a look at a little bit of slow-mo footage now as we're running this stand. Let's look at the outlet of the firmer itself. As you can see, as each seed goes by the seed sensor, the dash valve then starts to open up as the end of that firmer would reach the end of where that seed was applied. Opens up, starts that dash. You can see the slow-mo footage of how that looks. And then as we travel 2 or 3 inches, however you have your iPad set across the ground, the valve then slams shut, cutting off the flow. And so we're producing those, what we call dashes, on the top of each seed as we work our way across the field. So now with the dash system in mind, let's go back to the math and look at what kind of return we're going to need per acre to pay for our starter investment. As you think about starter being in that $5.60 per gallon, we'll go back and put our numbers up. We need at least a full bushel gain over no starter at all to pay for that each gallon we apply. So if we're putting 6 gallon on, like we said earlier, put that up here, 6 gallon per acre. That's that 33.60 we talked about before. Again, this is cost per gallon. We're going to need at least 6 bushel to pay back. And there's going to be seasons where that happens, but it makes me a bit nervous with that kind of cost being invested up front. Compared to where we come in and say, let's apply that same 6 gallon per acre, but now think about that as concentration. Think about that number more like, what does the plant see when it intercepts that hot spot underground, not so much as how many gallons your tank goes down when you cover an acre. Because when we now run that 6 gallon concentration, but only apply 3 inches of the 6 inches around that seed, now we're going to cut that investment in half. So now we're looking at $16.80 an acre. And in a lot of our research trials, we've seen that even a 2-inch dash has some of the best results. I don't know if I can totally explain that. What I'm seeing though is that the plant likes concentration. From what I can tell, when that root intercepts that hot zone, it wants to see a nice high concentration of that starter that's being applied. And we see that often show up then in our results where 2-inch actually out yields continuous in a lot of our plots. So 2-inch, now out of 6 inches I'm only applying 2. So now I'm only spending 1/3 of the total amount. So we see even more savings. Now we're down to $11.20 an acre. So you start thinking about ROI. Our goal is just to break even on yield. In fact, recent university studies have confirmed this. They're showing no statistically significant yield difference between continuous stream and dash applied starter. That would be a huge win for us, right? If we could say whatever gain we saw with 6 gallon continuous stream applied every inch of the furrow, if we cut that in half and can maintain yield, or we can cut it all the way down to 1/3 and maintain yield, as you can obviously see, our ROI is going up a lot. Now instead of needing more than 6 bushel at today's prices to pay for a gallon or 6 gallon applied, now because we're only applying 2 gallon per acre, but 6 gallon concentration, so the seed is seeing the same concentration when it intercepts the hot zone, our tank's only going down by 1/3. Now we start to see we only need 2 bushel, and I like that bet a lot more. So by using the 360 dash system, we can start to take a lot more control over where we're applying starter, what that root system is going to see as it develops, and what kind of payback we can get on these kinds of investments. So our focus is to say in today's environment, as costs are going up, we're going to use the ability to use technology to be smarter, to apply less, but apply it in the right place. So as we look at our yield results, as I mentioned, a lot of cases we just want to see a tie. In some cases we've seen 2-inch out yield, 3-inch out yield continuous. The plant likes concentration. Today is an environment where we want to go after yield. We want to chase these high prices, but at the same time we have to manage the cost. Take a look at 360 Dash for more control in your starter program.